Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Majority Podcast. Episode 24. It's difficult to believe that we have done so many so far. Thank you very much for being along on this journey with us. This is Scotland's number one anti nationalist podcast. It's going out live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. And I'm the host, Mark Devlin, and I'm here tonight with co hosts Niall Fraser and Mary Devlin.
And I'm here tonight from behind the scenes. I'm out front tonight because our usual host, David Griffiths, is making his way back, probably quite slowly, from Seville.
And
I hope
okay,
everyone's having a great evening. Yes, hello everyone.
that's good. What do you think? What are we going to be talking about tonight?
Well, tonight I'm going to be talking about Nicola Sturgeon's disastrous and embarrassing trip to the US.
Yeah, and tonight I'll be talking about the ongoing woes with our Scottish NHS.
Oh, well, that is definitely ongoing. I'll be taking up the easiest job in Scotland as a station announcer for trains that will never arrive.
And of course, we have Zoomer of the
Boomer
Week, your
of the...
favourite segment.
Yay!
All right, so we'll be back in just a moment. Right. Well, as usual, welcome back. And as usual, we start with a shout out to our donors who made all this possible through crowdfund that we did and we are still doing. So if you would like to support the podcast, please go to our website, click donate, and we are happy to have anything that helps us continue our fight against toxic and divisive Scottish nationalism. I'd also like to thank our friends at UK Union Voice and United Against Separation who kindly allow us to distribute the podcast live on their Facebook pages. And as many of you are watching through because of that tonight.
And you can also watch on Twitter and YouTube where you can subscribe.
Yes, and please do like, share, comment, tell your friends, extend our reach at the click of a button. Great comments get read on the show. Please do keep them short though, as we can't show big, huge essays on screen. And we'll try to get as many read as we can. Thank you.
Yes, and because we're a bit short-handed tonight, as the three of us, we will might take us a little bit longer to get to some of your comments, but rest assured we do read all of them. Okay, where are we at? So coming up, Mary is going to go stateside with on a trip, magical journey across the Atlantic to Washington with Sturgeon, and that will be in just a second.
Okay, so this week, when Scotland was mired in the middle of a cost of living crisis, an NHS crisis, and a transport crisis, when our ferries and trains were being cancelled quicker than J.K. Rowling at a trans convention, Nicola Sturgeon, once again desperate to be a world leader, jetted off, at taxpayers' expense of course, to Washington DC, the capital of the USA. And she was probably expecting to be hailed as some kind of a liberal hero. But it didn't go to plan. The trip was hailed a disaster amid claims she has made an embarrassment of herself on the world stage. She made not one, not two, not three, but four major gaffes. As well as collecting selfies, Nicola said one of her main aims was to encourage greater investment to come into Scotland from the US.
Well, I don't know. I mean, we've talked about this quite a bit on the podcast, of course. I mean, who is going to invest in Scotland when they don't know the basics of what the nation
Yeah.
is about? There's no idea of what currency is going to be used. No idea if there's going to be actually the biggest thing, of course, is there going to be a border? I'm going to set up my factory in Scotland, and then 9 months later, there's going to be a hard border. I'm going to have to use a different currency. I don't know what the value of anything's going to be. I'm cut off from a market of 50 million people that's right next to it. Why would anyone, any business person,
Yeah.
do that?
I
Well,
can't think of any riskier investment than that.
Well,
No,
she was
it's,
there and she was pressing her case for Scottish independence. But of course, what she doesn't seem to understand at all is that the biggest obstacle to getting investment from the US is actually the political instability in Scotland, which is caused by her party, other nationalist parties, and nationalists throughout Scotland.
Absolutely.
So that was the first major gaffe that she made. And she went to the secondly she went to the Brookings Institute, and they basically saw her comments as trying to take advantage of the crisis in Ukraine. So she didn't get very far with that. They really looked down on it. They said that she was doing blatant politicizing at a time of war.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to envisage investment coming to Scotland unless there's some secret sweeteners there. Maybe there's thousands of acres of Scottish land
oh
going.
yes, yeah, no, I see where you're
Just to
going with
sort
this
of
now.
well, yeah, of course. So I think there is deals to be made, but I think they're all backroom deals, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a real shocker. I think this Ukraine thing is, we saw this. This is a big thing. I think for a lot of people now, we're seeing aggression by Russia, a country that Alex Salmond cozied up to, a country that we all know would be a port of call for loans and what have you, and trying to get influence, and they try to get influence all throughout the world, and of course they would try to get influence in independent Scotland. And of course, they even want to demilitarization, the whole thing about getting rid of the nukes and so on. And at this time in the world history, when we're actually seeing the opposite, countries like Norway, Sweden, Finland, I think they're all saying, "Well, we want to join NATO. We want to do this."
Yeah,
And for so long, the nationalists have said, "No, we don't want to have any part of that. We don't want any nukes," and that's looking increasingly out of touch.
yeah, and
Well, she. So,
sorry, Mary, and don't forget Patrick Harvey of the Greens propping up the SNP administration has said on the record that they remain opposed to joining NATO and being a part of NATO.
So this
Uh,
week there was definitely a split. We can see some cracks there. Patrick Harvey and the Greens are taking one side. Nicola Sturgeon is saying that basically the crisis in Ukraine has strengthened her resolve to join NATO. So they're basically at opposite ends of the spectrum here. And of course, the youth of the SNP, they're completely opposed to Trident and anything like that at all. So not quite sure what's going on there, but
Well, I
definitely
don't know if
looks
they're
like some cracks.
so entirely opposed to it now. I mean, you can see what's going on in the world, and it's one of these things. It's a great idea to have no nuclear weapons, but that's fine until you see aggressive states. I mean,
Yeah,
we can all
exactly.
see what's going. I mean, everyone can see what's going on in the
I
world. It's
know.
not like you even it goes beyond. It basically is aggressive Russian nationalism is trying to take over this, other state. So it's not something that they can do. And I think this that we mentioned a kind of civil war. It kind of highlights that the SNP tries to be everything to all people. And they try and get away with that by saying, oh, they're almost like a party that can have two opposite opinions inside there on every topic,
Yeah.
because it's all bound together by this glue of that they want in independent Scotland. As long as you can dangle that carrot in front of them, then it doesn't matter if you want Trident or you don't like Trident.
Yeah.
It, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
Well, she was trying to say that Ukraine had strengthened her belief in independence for Scotland. So I'm not quite sure how that works because surely I think it was pointed out to her in the US that that would make much less security for the US for a
Ab-
start, as well as
Absolutely.
everybody else.
It's so beyond the pale to be politicising a conflict like this for your own gain. It's unbelievable. But then again, it's Nicola Sturgeon we're talking about here. She constantly has her foot in her mouth.
Well,
Constantly.
seeing as you're talking about foot and mouth, the third major gaffe that she made, was her very undiplomatic, in fact cringeworthy, request for Americans not to re-elect their former president Donald Trump. Mark, I don't know. Do you have a? Do you
I
have?
don't have the clip.
Oh,
Have the clip, but it's very short anyway. You can find it on. Or you can find it on Twitter and what have you. But
okay. Well, basically, what happened was she was asked what policies Americans could adopt to assist the European energy policies. And her response was, "Don't re-elect Trump at any point."
Who does she think she is? Who does she think she is? Remember when Obama came over here and told us, what, don't Brexit? Was that the case? Who does she think she's an Obama level sort of a politician who just go and don't elect Donald Trump, just telling Americans as if she's a somebody? It's
No,
outrageous.
Americans don't know anything. I mean, we lived in the States for. I mean, Americans don't know anything. They don't know anything about Scottish politics. We lived in the States for 8 years, and most people they don't. They have a very, they know about America. They don't know really about other countries that much, and they don't follow other countries' politics, and they don't have an idea. And it's probably the same for most people in most countries. They don't do that. But the idea that Nicola Sturgeon, of all people, can influence an election, but no, it's not just that. As well, she's out there saying, "Give us investment," and then she's pissing off half of the country who votes Republican,
I,
right?
well, and it's. I mean, it's the wrong advice as well. I mean, personally, I would like to see Donald Trump in office in America the next after Biden goes as well. During Trump's tenure, we didn't have any wars. I think we've seen the most unbelievable clip of him walking across the demilitarization zone in North Korea. It's he was the best peacetime president there was.
Well,
Well,
yeah,
not,
I
not
think.
just that, but during, we lived in the States during Trump's time, and Trump was all for America, supplying its own energy. He was all for fracking and for the pipeline from,
Yeah.
down from the north, and he was all for getting, the gas out, natural gas and everything.
Energy independence,
So
yeah.
while we were there, the price of what we call gas or call petrol here actually halved because
Unbelievable.
America was much more reliant on its own energy rather than importing it. Now, if only we had been doing that in Scotland and the UK, then we might be in a much better position now.
Yeah, I think irrespective of what you feel about Trump, I think,
Yeah.
and of course, it's very different to feel the media bias that's in the UK about Trump is just astonishing. It really is. It's all like 99% negative. Whereas, of course, when you're in the States, it's not. It's far more balanced, and they talk about actual policies and stuff, and not personality. Well, they talk about all that as well. So it's very difficult to get an idea of Trump's policies here. But of course, a lot of people don't like Trump. But that's not the issue. You don't go to a foreign country as a guest and then say, "Oh, I don't like your past or future president." That's not the way.
Yeah.
That's
It's
not the way.
just
Americans are very what's the word? Respectful of the office of president, irrespective of who's in there.
Let's just
absolutely.
can we pause for a second and reflect on how inflated her ego. Well, she must think such an inflated ego that she can influence the American election. I mean, just pause and reflect on that just a second. Just breathe. She has no chance. They're not going to listen to her. Not a chance.
You see some of the video there, or the pictures of her, and it's like she's in a corridor or something. It's
Yeah.
it's like a minor official arriving. It's all actually, of course, not done for the Americans. Of course, it's done to put in the national front pages and the Daily Record and any other gullible newspaper.
Well,
But I think there's there is quite a bit of pushback on this. I'm just going to put a pause. We had some really good comments there.
Yeah.
James, that's a really great comment. It's a bit long to put on the screen here. He talks about how his father was one of the heroes of Telemark and who had been part of the Japanese land invasion without nuclear weapons stopped that. So there's always, there's many people involved in these type of decisions, and you don't know really. But we know we are safer with them than without them, and the Ukrainian experience certainly shows that. I think anyway, and I think perhaps young people are coming around to that idea
well,
more and more.
I agree, Mark, but
Thanks.
just usually I do. Okay, so the fourth gaffe that she made was on social media because Nicola was trying to claim that she had been discussing Scotland's constitutional future with the great and the good in Washington, with like Nancy Pelosi and representatives of the US government. So that's what she was claiming on social media. However, when they put their statements out on social media, they didn't mention anything about Scotland's constitutional future. So we can only guess that perhaps she wasn't really discussing that after all. And just to close up, Mark, you mentioned earlier about the National. Well, the National weren't happy this week, and I'm not sure if you have that headline, but they were very annoyed that Nicola hadn't been getting much press coverage, and they hadn't been all touted on the BBC. But as Dan Wootton pointed out last night on GB News, the reason for that was that the whole trip was a bit of a disaster, and she made so many gaffes that rather than embarrass her any further, that the Scottish media have basically just decided to ignore her on this one.
Yeah, well, it's this part is the social media part. No, the constitutional part is quite interesting because I read yesterday that she wasn't allowed to talk about the only reason she was allowed to talk about the Constitution was that there was a UK government official sitting next to her during the meetings.
Oh,
Wow.
okay.
So the UK government could actually just said, "Look, you're not actually going to be able to talk about that at all." But maybe she wasn't able to talk about it. But of course, she spun it as being talking about it and going over to America to deal with all and be at COP26 and all this type of stuff. I'm a world leader. I
Yeah.
am the wonderful, amazing Nicola Sturgeon who will change the world. And the people there are like, we're actually running the world, maybe you can get back to the regional administrator that you actually are and stop pretending, but that's not what happens. Unfortunately, what happens is people like Nancy Pelosi and all give her recommendations for that big job in the UN or whatever it is that she's looking for. You think? Who knows?
I think they're just being polite, to be honest.
Yeah.
That's true.
As you say, they do have respect for the office, so they have the respect for the office in Scotland, but I'm sure they don't have that much respect for her.
Right. Okay. We're having a lot of good comments coming in
Yes.
right now. So is it good? Please keep them coming in. We like to know, what do you think? Is Sturgeon a world leader? No. Actually, how many no's can we get? We get a lot of no's coming in there. Okay, coming up next, Niall is going to be talking about the ongoing scandal in Scotland's NHS. After
Yes.
that, I will be trying to get a train, to get a ferry to the airport, and without much success. So we'll be back in a second.
Right. So this
Niall,
week,
you're up.
so we've had an article come out from the Herald. So just briefly before we jump into that, if you tune into this show regular, you would already be aware of the SNP's love for spin doctory and the PR machine. Sturgeon herself has a whole battalion as a PR team, spinning all the negative press, which is lots, into positive or less negative press. Sometimes I think the SNP are keeping the entire PR industry afloat in Scotland, what with all the gargantuan sums that we, us, me and you, all the listeners, the taxpayer, give them every month to maintain the pristine image of Sturgeon and the SNP in general. So now you'd think that some things would be naturally off limits for spin doctors. You would think things like our NHS, which require actual doctors, not spin doctors. When a normal person sees a problem, he or she would try and rectify the problem. But when SNP politicians see a problem, the gut reaction isn't to fix the problem, it's to inject a really unhealthy amount of PR and spin in order to cloud and mask the actual problem. Nothing gets fixed. And you'll doubtless see this tactic unfold when the newly nationalised ScotRail is, pardon the pun, derailed.
We're already seeing that. Anyway.
Yes, we're seeing it happen, Mark, in real time. So let's dive into the Herald article, if you could be so kind, Mark.
Okay, that Herald one was okay. Oops, we have to go back.
So I've got some
that's the one,
snippets from it as well. So
Right, okay.
5 Scottish health boards have a budget on communication and spin in excess of £500,000, while
right.
NHS 24 has faced criticism for long waiting times and abandoned calls abandoned calls, has spent at least 430,000 on its 11 staff and 3 vacancies. NHS National Service Scotland, which provides strategic support and advice to the NHS Scotland, has 25 employees in its corporate communication sector, where there are almost 200 communication staff working across Scotland's health services. So NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde has spent 538,000 for its 13 communication staff. NHS Lanarkshire spent 525,000 of its 15 staff. And NHS Lothian have spent 451,000, all public money, by the way, on 13 communications specialists.
It'd be quite something to see what these people actually do during the day. You know, I mean, you're talking about organisations that don't really need to have that much. There's a certain amount of public-facing work, which is like, okay, well, you know, you must come in for your jab, that type of
Yes.
stuff. You know, have you had your colon checked recently? All that type of stuff. And, you know, that's, of course, necessary. That's not, I think, what you're talking about. What you're talking about is actual people wanting to spin stories.
Yes.
And I don't know what kind of stories they need to be spinning. I mean, is it waiting lists? What are the other things
Well,
called?
maybe they're just,
Negligence and so on. Is that what it's about mainly?
maybe they're just sitting around waiting for, you know, a disaster, and then they get on the case. You know,
Perhaps,
so they have
mate,
to,
you know,
they have to be
perhaps.
paid the whole time just to be sitting there.
I mean, for me, it's the injection of the PR and the spin team in such a sort of key industry, like, or a very, very pivotal sort of service in Scotland that it should be offshored from that PR spin doctorate. It should not cover the NHS whatsoever, and yet we're throwing spin experts in to sort of lessen the blow of the waiting times, or so it seems. You know, it's not, that doesn't actually lessen the blow. It lessens the image, the perception that there's waiting times. So we need to fix
Well,
the issue.
it feels
Well-
like a make work project really for, you know, for government employees really more than anything else. Well, I mean, what more? I mean, almost like money laundering. You know, it's like what can you? We've got a PR team,
Yeah.
you know, and they sit here all day making PR, and you look and see what they've done. Well, one or two articles maybe or stuff like that. But you know, this isn't actually something that's new. When I was looking up the websites to present. Here's this one here. Spin doctors and PR is an unhealthy way to spend 20 million. That's from 2012.
Yeah.
You know, NHS in Scotland spend this amount on there, and it's just like it's ongoing. It's 20 million over 5 years, but it's still a huge amount for something that's not perhaps entirely necessary. I mean, I think what we're saying, I mean, don't want to be in a situation where there are more, as you say, more spin doctors than actual doctors.
Yeah. It's so scary, especially when waiting times never been higher. Patients are not getting seen. Calls abandoned. It's outrageous. We need all hands on deck to fix and reform this NHS just now, or else it's in dire straits. It's already in dire straits, and it needs fixing now. It doesn't need a team of spin doctors.
Well,
it needs
Well,
more.
especially after the pandemic, I think, obviously it's fair enough to spend a lot of money then, but now, you know, given that the government has to tighten its belt, everyone has to tighten its belt because of cost of living crisis, then we really should be looking at these bureaucracies and unnecessary employees and trying to say, well, actually, you know, we have a choice here. We have a choice of looking after patients, or you have your cushy job there where you don't do anything, and you know, as maybe Ms. Mary says, you're just waiting for an emergency, whatever. You know, it's not really that. It's not the way to be managing stuff. Is to be dealing with stuff, things that
Well,
way.
Mark, you just mentioned the pandemic, so we have to ask the question, when they had the disastrous, you know, the COVID track and trace scheme, and that was an absolute disaster. So how much did they spend trying to spin that?
I think
and
it's
then-
7 million. Yeah.
Trying to spin it?
On the app.
Oh,
I
on
mean,
the
how
app.
how much they've spent on trying to spin it, I don't know.
Because, in Scotland, of course, we had to have a separate app. We couldn't use the app that the rest of the UK was using, so that was a complete waste of money.
Well, we chat about this. Oh, sorry to interrupt you. We chat about this at lunch, and it was the idea is that you can spin as much as you like, but at a certain point, reality is going to bite you.
Yes.
It's a boy. Well, I don't know if the boy who cries wolf is the right thing, but the idea that you can spin your way out of any situation. I mean, you just need to look at any political situation, and at a certain point, the spin stops. And people go, well, either you're just continuing to spin this and against reality, or they accept reality and say, well, you actually did some bad thing, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's what's happening to some extent to Sturgeon. We've had so many people, 50 spin doctors, whatever, is working in different policies and so on. But at a certain point, if you can't get a referendum, for example, then no amount of spin is going to be able to spin. I can't get your referendum. Hard stop. We'd always talk about this on the show. Can't get your referendum. You can't spin it. You can try and spin it, but people will be like, game's up. He's promised a one in 2023. Where is it?
Yeah.
How you spin it? You can't spin that to, oh, it's going to go into 2024. No, people are past that. So this kind of spin is, it's annoying and it's expensive.
It's like musical chairs. Eventually the music has to stop, and you have to sit in a seat. So I think there's no seats in this musical chairs. This is a musical chairs without seats. The music's just consistently going, and it never stops. But eventually it will stop, and there's nobody to have a seat. We're all out.
Well, I feel really sorry for all the families, all the people who are being told that they can't have treatments that they desperately need because there's a shortage of money, there's no budget or whatever. And then you see budgets being spent like this on just spinning their disasters or things that have gone wrong or whatever. It must be heartbreaking. You say we could just take $1 million from there and put it into, this treatment.
Yeah. We've had a great comment coming from Lisa Richardson. How's she going to spin her way out of the care homes? Of the care home deaths?
Well, that's still to be seen because we're going to have various inquiries about that. I feel an issue about the door before then, but we can only hope. But why would she go through that? That's going to be a grueling process and be raked over the coals for even in Scotland, I think, for every type misdemeanor, whatever it was. And I don't think that anyone would really want to be part of that. I think. Okay, there's a lot of trouble going on there. We'd like to, the NHS is fully devolved. This is something that we should always remember. This isn't Westminster's problem. These are entirely Scottish problems caused. So whenever you hear something about, the Scottish NHS is a disaster, and a national is blaming Westminster, that's not how it works. In fact, did you see those pictures of the march? There was another march at the weekend, and it was poorly attended, 700 people, and by the count of one of our followers, there were 8 stray dogs, so about the same kind of level as what they've been having. But in amongst that, they have these banners that say "Save the NHS," and they're marching with banners to say "Save the NHS" when they're the people. They voted for
Destroying
the people who were destroying it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really quite shocking. Anyway, we've all got
some more
different
great
experience.
comments.
Okay.
Before you jump in there, Mark. Kenny
Go ahead.
Calderwood says 27 million, I can imagine, on Gaelic signs. Helen Brooks, what about, I think this is census forms, telling you to phone for help, can't get through. Why just send a form with questions you can answer? Precisely.
Yeah, well, I think we're all in agreement with that one, definitely.
Genius.
Yeah.
Yes. Right. Okay. Good to chat there. Next up, I'm going to be talking about the train that never arrived on platform. It wasn't even there in some cases. And then after that, we will be doing Zoomer of the Week. So, see you in a second. Right, so we can't leave this week without a discussion of the state of Scotland's trains. What trains, I hear you ask? What are those things? I haven't seen them in a while.
Do we still have
Yes,
them?
What's that?
Do we still have those?
Well, we used to have these things. You would go to a thing called a station, and every so often, this kind of metal box thing would come along, and you jump in, and it would zip you off to another part of the country. Quite amazing, actually. Invented it in the, I don't know, 1700s, something. And now it's a disaster. After all this time, it's it's a wreck. Anyway, so do you remember that, Mary, when the Scottish administration said they were going to nationalise the railways? What day was that?
I believe that was April 1st, of course.
Right.
That should
Okay.
have said it all, I think.
Yeah,
That
it's
should have said it all.
unintentional comedy there.
Right. So, and what an April Fool's joke that has turned out to be. The joke is on us. This last week, newly nationalised ScotRail has said it's cutting services by a third.
Wow.
30% of services cut, and 600 services cut as well.
Unbelievable, Jeff.
Well, but just remember that that's probably 30% of the post-COVID numbers, the number of services, because pre-COVID there would have been a lot more services. So I believe that the actual amounts that we're talking here, instead of being 30%, is probably closer to 50% of services.
Oh,
cut.
really?
Yeah.
Right. Well,
Uh,
here's the headline here. Nearly a third of, as if we were making this up as an April Fool's joke. No, we're not. This is actual reality in Scotland as we have it. Now, it was bad enough that, certainly in Glasgow, nobody's been able to get a train on a Sunday for, I don't know how many,
Yeah, it's been
how
ages.
long it was. Months,
Months.
more than months, many months. And this basically is and they nationalised the thing.
Yeah, it's been going on for about a year, I think. More than a
Yeah.
year. It's been a long time.
So, Transport Minister Jenny Gilruth says that, what does she say? She said it's because of a shortage of drivers and they didn't take the option of overtime and rest day working. But I was reading this thing here. I've got a clip. Where is it? Let me find it in a second. Yeah, okay. I've got this one here from Michael Blakely at the Daily Mail. Says Nicola Sturgeon tells Graham Simpson that 38 new ScotRail drivers will be ready to start by end of summer, 55 by end of the year, and 100 after that. With 130 driver shortage, this suggests a new timetable could be in place for a long time to come unless the dispute is resolved.
So there's already going to be industrial action, it looks like, or a strike.
Well,
It's just,
that's what it's about, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, of course. It's just.
So this could be the summer of our discontent.
Oh, very good, Mary.
Oh,
That's not even scripted.
Nope.
Very good. Well, yeah. I mean, that is part of it. I've lost my place in this thing. Okay,
Don't worry.
so
Well, one of the questions I have, Mark, is: isn't it true that when Nicola? So my understanding is that the Scottish Government decided to nationalise the train service that was being run by Abellio because they
Yes.
were not doing a good job.
yes.
So then Nicola Sturgeon decided to hire, as the CEO, she hired the CEO of Abellio to run the new nationalised service. I mean, how
well, that's what you do. Of course,
utterly
everyone does
ridiculous
that.
is that?
Yeah.
You hire
that is-
hire a failure. You were really rubbish. Sure,
Well, surely
get a
the
job.
buck stopped with him for whatever was wrong with Abellio, right? He was the CEO, so the
Yeah,
buck stopped with
surely.
him. So why on earth? He's the last person on earth that I would hire to do that job.
Precisely. And more to the point, is he getting paid more or less? I wonder.
No, that
That's
was
the
not
question we
fair.
need to
Paid
ask.
plenty. I think it was.
Yeah, so you're exactly
300,000
right,
at least.
Mary, right? So the trains are failing. We blame the CEO. Then we rehire the CEO after it's nationalised. I mean, farce doesn't even cover this. I mean, the SNP Comedy Club strikes again. It's
I know, and they're saying on one side, they're saying, right, let's get people off the trains with carbon
Off the roads.
targets to reach. Right, so get off the trains, get on your bikes.
No.
Not get off the trains. Get out your cars, I should say.
Get
out
off the
your
roads.
cars.
Yeah.
And then it's like, but where are you going to go? You can't get a train, and buses are short as well, and never arrive in time. My daughter had to wait for 3 buses the other day because they're just not running. And off the rails, that's a good caption down there, I think. So this thing, say here, imagine a future Scotland where everyone has to get a bike to go to a job they don't have, or stay at home be force-fed daily messages from President Sturgeon about rainbow unicorns and free money.
yes.
Well,
Yes.
that's not the future. That is actually right now. And I have got, there's here Kenny Calderwood saying last train here is 10:30 to 6:30. We have a whole bunch of tweets here from people. I'll just put some of them up here. Last train to Edinburgh, 10:15. The last train service between the two biggest cities in Scotland, hilariously inept. Another one. Sorry, I'm sure there's another one there. Yeah, that's the same thing about the Scots Tories saying everything's cancelled. And I think one of the things, though, is we can bring this back to the idea that nationalisation is an issue. When it was Abellio who were doing it, or Abellio, whatever their name is, I mean, they're a private company and they make a mistake. They can't deal with things. It's kind of contained inside the company. The way it's nothing to do with government, right? I mean, the government does the franchise, but the day-to-day running, of course, is done on the by the management of the company. And we don't hear about, you might hear about some strikes or stuff, but it's not the same thing as when a union says, well, actually, here's politicians in charge now. So what are politicians sensitive to? They're sensitive to any kind of media fuss. And so they just held hostage the company. Oh, not the hostage. The unions can hold the government hostage, and this is what happened. And Mary mentioned summer of discontent, harking back to the winter of discontent. That's exactly what happened then. And so we had this situation where unions were holding nationalised industries to ransom. And what happened in the end, of course, was Maggie Thatcher.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in awe of how amazing our audience is, guys. Jeannie Anderson, I think Fiona Hislop today in Scottish Parliament blamed Westminster for the train problems in Scotland as they've soured relations with the unions, and it's had an effect on the present discussions here. So true to form, whose fault is it, guys? Whose fault is it for a nationalised service in Scotland? Oh, it's Westminster's fault.
Yeah.
It's Westminster's fault.
Well, I mean that doesn't come as a surprise, does it? It's the same with everything. So now we've got the nationalised trains, and we've got the ferry yard was nationalised as well, and we'll
The
see
scrap
what
yard.
an absolute disaster
That's good.
that is. Yeah. So we're not going to get ferries. We're not going to get trains. We're being hounded off the roads, and I think someone here has made the comment about the
Car park tax.
we can't get trains to take car to work and get charged for parking. So the next thing they're going to do to get us out of our car is they're going to charge for parking at the workplace. Now, I know we've discussed this before, but so we can't get trains, we can't get cars, we can't get ferries.
Yes.
The only thing we can do is get on our bikes.
Or stay at home and don't move.
Yeah, work from home.
Yeah.
Which
I think that's part of it. I mean, I have discussed this before. That's their idea. Even if they brought in everyone who's in electric cars, they would still be against them. So it's not ongoing. These people are just against stuff that other people like and use. So it's no good here. What have we got here? What Sturgeon needs is Maggie Thatcher to sort her out. Cage match. That would be good. Zombie Maggie. Come back.
The afterlife.
Sort out this nationalist the union and the nationalists now. That's that.
And Ron Body says the irony is that many of these striking rail workers will vote for SNP. Do people not get it? Do they not get that there's that what they are what they're voting for, and that this is what they get? If you vote SNP and you vote for nationalist parties, then this is exactly what you get. We're going to be having strikes all summer, and we're already in the middle of a cost of living crisis, but people are going to have to stump up for extra, for parking at their workplace. I don't know how this makes any sense, why people keep voting for it.
I think if you vote for a slap in the face, you're going to get a slap in the face.
Oh, that's good.
That is where we are. And thanks for your comment, Ron. It's Ron Body, sorry.
Yeah, I'm just going to say, here we've got this. If the Scottish government ran the trains, Harry Potter would never have gone to Hogwarts. Can't even say that. And then where would we be?
What we'll be left with is fictitious platforms at 9 3/4. That's the only thing we'll be left with in Scotland.
Well, if it's under the nationalists, it'll be It'll be cut down to platform 6 and 3
eight and
quarters.
1/5.
Right. Eventually down just to a half and a quarter, and then okay. But you got independence. Don't worry,
I'm sorry, guys.
Our-
Hogwarts Express is cancelled.
right. But that's it. Along with JK and Hogwarts Express
Yeah.
are cancelled, sadly. And we may laugh, but
Yeah.
this is yet another Scottish tragedy. And what can we do? We can do some things. We can not just moan about stuff like what we do a little bit on this show, but the majority is a group where we are actively pushing. We're pushing against. We're pushing to make our opposition party stronger. We're pushing to make our media have less appeasement, and we are trying to unite the nationalist community. If you're watching right now and you kind of like what we're saying, and then please tell your friends and help. And they can tune in or watch us
Yeah.
later on catch up, as it were, and on
I mean,
YouTube.
in reality, if everyone in the audience was to tell someone, and they were to tell someone, and they were to tell someone, we would have Sturgeon out in a few months. We need our audience to be working as hard as us as well. So
Right.
please do share, comment, get the word out.
Of course. And I don't think what we're doing here, Mark, is moaning about things. I think what we're doing is drawing attention and bringing people's attention to things. And by bringing people's attention to stuff and discussing it, then hopefully they can go out and bring other people's attention to it and share it with them as well.
Yeah, but what I mean is that we're not just sitting here moaning about things and thinking that we can't actually do anything. We actually believe as an organisation that we can do things, and we're we do work every day to try and chip away at nationalist ideology, at nationalist incompetence, and so on. It's a tough job, but we are happy to do that. So. We can, whatever you can do to help us, and that goes all the way from donations to making a comment to watching the show to telling a friend. That's great. Coming up soon, it's the highlight of the week.
Yay.
It is. Yes, it is Zoomer of the week. Right. I actually just realised that I had a couple of clips that were supposed to play in that last section, but anyway, Mary's up first.
Okay, so my Zoomer of the week. Hold on, I just put up my little thing saying Mary's. This is the first time I've ever had this. Mary's Zoomer of the week. Isn't that great?
Fantastic.
Okay, so my Zoomer of the week, let me just get rid of that again, is Emma Harper. Now, many of you will know poor Emma. She is one of our SNP MSPs, and we've mocked her before for her lack of understanding on currency. She was the one that advocated that after India we could all just keep using our credit cards because.
Oh, do you want to show that one now? Show that one in a minute.
Yeah, it's too good.
No. Oh, have you got the credit card one?
Yeah, I've got that one as well. Okay, hold it.
Right,
okay. Yeah, so give me a second, okay, and we'll get that one. It's a classic.
It's a must see. It's a must see.
So if you haven't seen that, here we go.
When I was in Mexico, it's workable.
Oh, she's what happened there?
Pause it.
When I was in Mexico, it's workable. Plastic translates anywhere where you are. So, and actually, there's been people that have been given more money for Scottish pounds when they're exchanging it at the moment. So our Scottish pound has the propensity to be really, really strong.
Okay, well, I think that has to be seen to be believed, because I don't think people would actually believe you if you told them that this is one of our MSPs here in Scotland. And not just that, we also know her as the one that said, she reassured us that a hard border would be good for jobs in Scotland.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that
because,
one.
Of
it would provide jobs.
It would provide jobs because it employs border guards. So this is the Emma that we're talking about. So this week, Emma is being mocked again for what's being called a pathetic Scots video. She was speaking about it was a children's mental health crisis, so it's actually quite a serious topic. But she appears to be speaking in some kind of made-up, pretendy version of Scots. And once again,
Yes.
I think we have to see this to actually believe it.
Right,
So,
oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Here it is.
Thanks
Cover
to
your
that,
ears
it's
if you don't
been
like
in our
cringe.
inquiry, particularly the young folk that's experience helped to inform our recommendations. Our inquiry found that poverty is one of the foremost issues causing poor health and well-being outcomes
Oops.
Okay.
What happened? No, so
parents
she's still
and
going on
young
now.
folk. Evidence shows the benefits of physical activity, but we are concerned only a wee drop of bairns and young folk is currently meeting
the hell?
daily physical activity recommendations.
See-
We have called for a properly funded strategy to address this and to focus particularly
Why
on
is it in
increasing
Scots?
physical activity.
Subtitles
for
is why
parents
what I'm
and young
asking.
folk, disadvantaged
Is it in
groups
Scots, though?
and
I mean-
deprived
No, it's not.
and amongst lasses.
It's not
In the short
Glaswegian.
term,
It's
we want
not.
to
This
see
comment
sustained
here says
investment
it's
in
slang
mental health
Glaswegian.
services.
I
It really
go, it's
isn't.
not. It really isn't
High demand and
Glaswegian.
reduced waiting times. Longer
It's
term,
rubbish.
we need a
It's utter
preventative
nonsense.
strategy that
Okay.
tackles
Yeah,
the
you have to turn it off. I've had enough
Yes,
of
it
that.
is real, Rita Johnson. Yes, it is real. Sorry to jump in, right, Mary, but
Right, go
that
ahead.
is so hilarious, right? So I make videos. I don't know if somebody you've probably seen my video somewhere, right?
I've seen them.
I speak with my own accent, be it Scots or not, whatever, right? But I'm subtitling them in English so people can understand it, right?
That's a
So
good
now
point.
it's the opposite where she she's speaking in Scots, big huge quotation marks, Scots, and she's subtitling in Scots. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Seriously,
Hadn't
they've
even
got
thought
it
of
wrong
that,
way
to be
around.
honest.
Yes.
Well, the big question is, does anyone in Scotland actually speak like that? I mean, it just seems like a convoluted attempt to try to make Scots appear to be a real separate, different language from
Yes,
English.
pushing it. It's pushing it.
And it's not even the way she speaks naturally. If you actually hear her speaking naturally, well, which we did a little bit earlier, then she doesn't speak anything like that. So this is all made up, pretendy stuff.
Well, it's a part of this Scottish culture warriors. What they want to do is they want to impose some Scots language on us and make it that we're all Scots and we're all bilingual, right? So
I mean,
I'm bilingual in Scots, right? Because I can
absolutely,
say
yeah.
I speak
there's a wee
Govan.
moose down the hoose. I don't know, this type of thing. Is that bilingual? I don't know. But it's not a language in the sense that it uses loan words. Almost all of it's English, just in a dialect, and there are some words that are Scots origin. But similarly, there are words all over through the English language that are from other countries. Loads of Japanese words, sushi, sashimi,
Karaoke.
all the foods, and so on. Shinkansen, all this type of stuff. Very popularized anime, what have you. Hundreds of Japanese words. But even if no one would say that just because they can say anime and
Karaoke.
karaoke, that they would be bilingual in Japanese. It doesn't work that way, or it doesn't work that way if you to use the Scots.
Well, what annoys me about her video is it feels like she's crowbarring words in that aren't. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily concerned with a T, and it's subtitled with a T. I would never use a word like that, and I've never felt the need to shorten that word. I mean, Scots generally, I think it's because we speak very, very fast that we end up shortening words, and that's where I think our accent sort of come about over the years or whatever. But it's no, you can't just crowbar in Scottishisms and make it sound Scottish and then call it Scots. It's not right. It's not right. And Emma Harper's not even speaking in her natural accent there either.
No,
They should have put
it's
somebody up.
completely false
Well,
and made up. Go ahead, Mary.
Well, what's happening is that you've got some Scottish people who don't understand what she's saying because it's made up. It's supposed to be some kind of a dialect, but I'm not sure what. But for example, Royal Blue had tweeted before. He said, "As a Highlander, I haven't a clue what she's talking about. Is this about excluding vast swaths of our country?" I mean,
Yeah.
so it's
And,
not even as if everyone in Scotland can understand what she's talking about.
Well, this is the one from History Women
Yes.
you got me to put up.
Mm-hmm.
The entire
History
pop-
Women says,
Right.
the entire population of Scotland understands English perfectly well. So why are you wasting our money on duplicating the message? And then she goes on to say, why are you exposing poor Emma Harper to even more ridicule than she has already brought upon herself?
That is a great point. Great point.
Right. Well,
another thing to say is, I mean, what kind of message are we sending to young people?
That you can be an
so
idiot.
This was supposed to be for mental health of young people. I would actually say this is making the mental health problem of our young people even worse. I mean, already they're trying to, build their skills in English and reading and communication and so on, and then we get this type of drivel.
it's as if someone's watched Brigadoon and then run it through Google Translate a few times. Right, that's what it's like. It's not. It's just kind of like mongrelized Scots, and
Yep.
it's not even. It doesn't make any sense. The subtitles don't make any sense. Its intention, I think, is just to confuse us into submission somehow, and just go, "What the hell is this?" and be so. But this wasn't just Emma Harper. This was a team. We talked about this team of spin doctors.
The spin doctors
A
wrote
team
this.
of people sat down and decided that this was a good idea. Then they wrote the thing, they made the thing, they put the subtitles on it, and they spent all the money in putting it out. This
And
is,
Very good
If-
point here that they said the problem with the Harper video is it's a serious subject. It's about children's
Yes.
mental health. So they shouldn't be, I don't know, sabotaging it or, trying to use it for some other political point.
If indeed this was aimed at Scots, as we can only assume, why would they subtitle it in Scots as well? Why?
it's a puzzle. It really is. So it's a conundrum inside a puzzle, inside an enigma, and so
Inside
on.
Pandora's box. Oh no.
That's what it's like. It's quite something. Okay, well, I mean, there's plenty to say about that, and these culture warriors will continue to try and impose their version of Scots as a language on us. And I think we all agree that Scots, as part of our identity, is something interesting. We all like to say Scots words, and we don't think about it that much. That's not really the issue here. The issue is this kind of cultural imposition of this kind of fake Scots onto and by the government, and that's it's quite.
It's
I
like
don't know
Mike
if it's just
Myers. It's like Mike Myers doing a Scottish accent. That's what it was like.
If it's no Scottish,
Well, he's
it's
good at
crap.
that, though. He's good at it.
He'd
Yeah.
need all that.
He's better. He would have improved that a wee
Well,
bit.
that's
Unless,
right,
at least we would have known it was comedy from the
Well, we
off
can
as
understand.
well.
I mean, the whole point we can understand Shrek, or even if we watch Outlander. I watched it. Watched Outlander last night, and quite a lot of it's actually in Scots words.
Yeah,
And it's for an American audience, though.
of
Right?
course.
So-
But they don't tone it down for them because
No,
they're
they don't, they
expecting
don't.
that, surely.
No, they don't tone it down at all. So it's I don't know. It's a weird one. This is a weird one, and you could almost feel sorry for Emma Harper, but let's not. Moving on, we are going second Zoomer of the. Right, mine is. I'll try and get through mine fairly fast. So watching, conscious of the time. A few days ago, all-knowing, all-wise Kenny Farqhuarson, the Times appeaser in chief, wrote an article to say that he made a wee manifesto that basically said that anyone who didn't agree with his words, his manifesto, was not a civic unionist. I'm going to bring up the thing somewhere.
Not a civic unionist.
Not a civic unionist. So basically, this was his idea. He says, the article, you can read it here. Civic unionism, passion without political bile. It's time for a pro-UK force rooted to reason rather than an emotional take on the nationalists.
Well, I agree with
Now,
that.
I've got a wee contest for you. Not contest.
Ooh,
Right.
love a contest. Yeah.
A contest, actually. Just of questions, actually.
Oh,
Okay.
right.
One question. Right. Okay. Do you think the referendum result should be respected?
You're not civic, mate.
No, you're not civic, mate.
No.
If you think it is. You're supposed to say yeah. You're supposed to
Well,
say
Yes,
absolutely it should.
absolutely. I think it should be respected.
We wouldn't
No,
be in
that's
this
it.
mess
Right,
if
you're
the,
not
if the
civic.
result...
You're not civic. Okay, right. Let's see if we can get it right this time. Do you think there should be a second referendum?
No.
No.
Not civic. That is just not being civic. Okay, do you
Wow.
think that everyone in the UK should have a say in the breakup of the UK?
Absolutely, I do.
Monsters. I can't believe I'm on this programme with you monstrous, uncivic unionists. It's a shocking. Not as bad enough that the National calls us all these names, lies, whatever it is, ultra unionists, extra unions. I don't know whatever it is that they come up with.
Yep.
We're not even
What about
unionists.
super unionists? I want to be a super unionist.
Well, we're not even unionists. We're anti-nationalists. That's
Yeah.
our thing. But that's the idea. Imagine just being so cynical to come up with this guff. Basically, he's saying that in the name of balance and civility or some other bullshit, he made up this list of basically appeasements. And he says that if you don't agree that there should be a second referendum, that only Scots should have decide on the future of the UK, and that the other one, which was gone, then you're not a civic unionist.
Wow.
You're a bad person. And is this, I don't know, what do you think of this, Mary?
Thanks, Kenny. Thank you.
When our kids, when our kids were young in America, around the age of 7, they get taught a class. One of their classes, like they have, classes for English, classes for math. They have a civics class, and the civics class is all about democracy and how to participate in democracy. Now they're learning this from a very young age. So I think the first lesson of civics is that elections, referendums, results are civic, and that you should be respecting those results. And it's extremely uncivic to not respect the results of elections and referendums.
Well, that's a very good point there, Mary. And I would say some other things about this. It's just a smug, particularly smug and sanctimonious attitude that if you don't appease nationalists, that you're a bad person. It's like, no, we're not bad people. We're not that. We're the majority of people who want to uphold democracy, who don't want to give toxic nationalists a second chance for no reason at all. They're lost. That's the way it goes. If you lose, you lose. So but these people in the media, they just want to keep it going and they profit from it. That's the thing that's most sickening. They profit from keeping the never-ending going.
Yeah.
By giving nationalists the hope that there's going to be a chance, that little slim chance of a referendum, they keep it going, and so they can write more articles and get paid more and appear as though they're the big brain.
Indeed.
And they're not. They should be saying, there's no chance of a second referendum, move on, Scotland needs to move on. Anyway,
Absolutely.
that's that part. Okay, and up to, we're running a wee bit late, but we'll get there in the end. Okay, next up is Niall.
Okay, so I'm going to blast through this, conscious of everyone's time. I don't want to waste it for you guys. So my Zoomer of the week this week is Humza Yousaf. I know he's one of my favourites for the Zoomer. So our NHS is too key a service to be playing politics with. People's lives are at stake. We've already had the agony of having to endure stories of Scots literally dying waiting on ambulances. And now he's coming under increased fire. The spin doctors are in. They're spraying glitter everywhere. They're trying to gaslight you as to the current state of the NHS, which is in dire disrepair. And it's too fundamental, too key a service to be placed under the charge of the chronic failure that is Humza Yousaf. And I've already stated this before, that he should resign in abject disgrace. And today I will repeat the call for his long overdue resignation. Please resign, Humza, and save us all your incompetence. Thank you.
Oh,
well, that's more of a rant than a Zoomer of the week, to be fair.
That was good. That was very good.
It's outrageous.
It's very good.
I mean, if you would allow me, it's not really a swear word, but, don't piss on me and tell me it's raining. This is what's happening with the NHS, and this is what's happening with Humza Yousaf. It's so horrific. And be prepared, guys. You don't want to use the NHS right now. Just don't get sick. Don't get
That's
sick.
hard. That's easier said than done.
Yeah.
That's easier said than done. Okay, Mary, as you're the new one here, you can get the choice.
And can I vote for myself? For my
Yes,
choice?
you can.
You're allowed
Yes, you
to
can.
vote for yourself.
Okay, but I'm not going to. And I'm not going to vote for Humza Yousaf either
Oh, really?
because he's a regular and he's won quite a lot of times. So I think we
Oh,
need to give
okay.
some other people a chance. I'm not sure if Kenny Farqhuarson, has he won before? He might have, but he'll probably...
Possibly.
Okay,
Part of the
so,
group, maybe, perhaps.
right, I think I'm going to vote for Kenny Farqhuarson.
Right. Well, I think I have to say that's fine, but I thought
I
Niall's
thought,
impassioned
yeah.
speech
No,
could have
actually,
got it
I
there.
have to say, yep.
well, thanks very much, but
Could
actually,
have got it.
I would like Emma Harper to win it because it is actually the most
yes,
hilarious
that's-
thing that happened this week. And
That
it's,
is true.
I
That's
still,
true.
in my mind, I still can't comprehend the subtitles. I mean, I don't know why. I don't know why, guys. Anybody, please send me a message. Let me understand it, because I don't.
Okay, I'm changing my vote. Wait now, hold on. So we'll go with Emma Harper.
Emma Harper, yeah.
Right, I think that's a
Okay,
good one. I think we can
okay.
all agree
Yeah.
in that.
Right.
And you
Hapless-
deserve a win, Mary. It was a fantastic one. Fantastic choice.
Hapless Emma Harper.
She's stolen it away from Kenny.
It's a real shocker. All right, okay, that was great Zoomer of the week, and I think so we'll wrap up. Running just a little bit late, so thank you for all for staying with us. We know that you've got other things to do, so it's a privilege to be able to have this chat with you, and it's fun for us too as well to do it. Of course, I'd like to thank our donors. You make it possible.
Yes, you do.
There is. You can go to our website and give us a one-time or monthly donation would really help. Or if you don't feel like that or have already done so, please subscribe to the channel, tell your friends, and so on.
And thanks everyone for participating in the comment section. It's been jumping tonight. We've had hundreds of comments. Great show, lovely evening. Chris Story, have a lovely rest of the evening. I very much will do. Thank you. Night, guys. And a lot of good comments coming in for Mary as well. Fantastic
great.
stuff.
Yes, very good show for Mary for first try at it. I know you were a little bit nervous beforehand, but I think you've done very well. Big thank you also to our donors, not to our donors, to our partners, UK Union Voice and Unite Against Separation. If you can, please go and follow them on Facebook and Twitter. I'll leave you with the thought of the week. Okay, so can we please make an effort to stop calling our side unionists? We're not in Northern Ireland, although some of us might want us to be. UK isn't a union, it's the result of a union, and its flag-waving connotations annoy pro-UK Labour voters. It's a nationalist term that divides us. Don't let them win. Let's
Yes.
put it in the bin. So we'll see you all again next Thursday. Thank you from me.
And it's
Thank
thank
you
you for me.
And thank you from me. It's been a great night. Thank you.
Thank you all. See you next week.